I see a box, a rectangular prism. I see a grammar question with introductory clauses. I see a nonlinear function. Wow, and I see systems of equations. The clouds have cleared. I see the future. Hey everyone, Sebastian back again with more SAT predictions. I've done it for August, I've done it for September, I've done it for other tests, and I think I have a pretty good streak of predicting this. You can check out the videos in the past, call me out if I messed up, but I have a good feeling on these questions here for the October test, so let's try them out. 6mx plus 15ny equals 22, 5mx plus 4ny equals negative 32. In the given systems of equations, m and n are constants. The system has a solution of x comma 3. What is the value of n? Okay, so what I'm going to do is plug in 3 here. What people make the mistake of is they try to solve for x. You can't solve for x. There's too many variables. But you can solve for n because you can treat mx like one unit, and you'll see how. So we're going to have 6mx plus 15 times 3, because we're plugging in 3 for y, n equals 22. That's going to become 6mx plus 45n equals 22. Now we're going to do the same thing for the other equation. So we're going to have 5mx plus 4 parentheses 3 n equals negative 32. Then we're going to have 5mx plus 12n equals negative 32. Now I'm going to do elimination method to cancel the mx's out. So I'm going to multiply the first one by 5, multiply the second one by 6. So in the first one I'm going to get 30 mx. Here I'm going to draw a line to separate the stuff I've just done. 30 mx plus 225n equals 110. And then the second one I'm going to multiply by 6, 30 mx plus 72n equals negative 192. Now I'm going to subtract them, and I'm going to cancel these out. This is going to become 153n, and I'm going to get 302, because the 110 minus negative 192 is like adding. So then to get from here, we are going to, anyone? We're just going to divide by 153. So n gives us 302 divided by 153. All right. So the reason this works is because the mx could be considered as one unit because they were always together in both equations. So we could cancel them out. And we're given y, so then we'll just have to solve for n from there using systems of equations. So if you have questions on this, let me know. And yes, I do predict a question like this will show up on the October test. So now let's try this one. The dimensions of a right rectangular prism are 8 inches by 6 inches by 10 inches. This is the box I imagined. What is the surface area in square inches of the prism? So remember, surface area of a right rectangular prism is going to be 2 times length times width plus width times height plus length times height. So you're going to get 2 times 8 times 6 plus 8 times 10. It doesn't really matter what you label as width, length, and height, just that you keep track that you're not doubling up on them or missing out on one, plus 6 times 10. So it's going to be 2 times 48 plus 80 plus 60. 80 plus 60 is 140 plus 48 is going to be 188. So we have 2 times 188. If you look at our answer choices, it should be D because that is 376. All right. So again, not too bad, but I'm predicting this will show up, and it's a classic question that you might learn how to do in middle school, but a lot of people forget it. And the SAT actually labels this as hard because so many people forget it and make simple mistakes. All right, I have another one here, probability and conditional probability. On August 7th, 2017, there were 26,000 people in Hootown. The major occupations in Hootown were teacher, farmer, astronomer, and inventor. By November 2017, the population had increased to 27,000 as people prepared for Christmas and moved back to this festive town. If a Hootown resident in November 2017 is selected at random, the probability that the person selected was an inventor is 0.22. There were n,000 inventors in Hootown in November 2017. To the nearest integer, what is the value of n? So I'm not predicting they're actually going to talk about Hootown on the test. So if they don't talk about Hootown, I don't want you coming back to me saying, Sebastian, there was no Hootown. Forget about Hootown. It's about the actual math going on. So we're given that we're looking for November 2017. Probability of getting an inventor was 0.22. So we're going to do 0.22, and n is in thousands. That's the important thing that people mess up. So they're often going to have some thousand thing, and they forget you need to divide by 1,000. So we're going to do 0.22 times the population to find the total number of people. But we're going to divide that by 1,000 because it's n,000 inventors. So those cancel out. So it's really just 0.22 times 27, which is 5.94. And yes, this is considered a hard question. Why? Because there's extraneous values here that we're not going to use. Extraneous info here about the farmers, the astronomers, and teachers. And then, to top it all off, we're given n,000 inventors instead of just n inventors. So we have to remember to divide by 1,000 from there. But if you do all those things, you'll be totally fine. It'll be a great question. All right, and then I have another one here. This is the nonlinear function question I imagined. For the exponential function f, the value of f of 1 is n, where n is a constant. Which of the following could be function f, written in a form where n is the coefficient or the base? So here, the trick is that when f is 1, we're given just a value, which is true anywhere, right? If we plug in 1 for x here, we're always going to be given a value. That's not the interesting thing. The thing is where it's written as a coefficient or the base. So to have that, so when we plug in, let's say 1 for a, we're going to get 54 times 3 to the power of 1, which is 54 times 3. That's going to be 162. So there, n does not appear either as the 54 or the 3, right? It's neither there. It's only gotten when we multiply together. That's going to happen again with b, because we're going to have 18 times 3 squared. And that's going to be, again, 162. It actually doesn't matter the same value. That just happens with the ones I made, but that's not the important thing. The important thing is that to get n, it should be when you plug in 1 here, you should get the value that's already either the first value here or there. So then C will be correct, because when you do 162 to the 3, 1 minus 1, 3 to the 1 minus 1 equals 0. 3 to the 0 is 1, and that gets us 162. See the connection there? The n is written as a coefficient. D wouldn't work either, because we get 486 to the 3, or times 3 to the 1 minus 2, which is 486 times a third. So the thing about this question is they're asking for n to be a coefficient or the base. So n could be 162, because that's what it is here. And then the only time that appears as a coefficient or base is C. Okay, so this is all about reading specifically and understanding what they mean by the form and the coefficient. Okay, very tricky, very conceptual, but totally possible. So if you have questions on this, let me know. I'm happy to answer more. And yes, I'm predicting people will see this on the October test. Now I've got 2 grammar questions that I'm envisioning. This one's a weird one. Sweet, acidic, and bright yellow, comma, blank. We have nothing else to go off of. So I'm not predicting you're going to have one exactly like this, but I am predicting you're going to have one with an introductory clause. And what has to happen is you want to avoid dangling modifiers. So what is sweet, acidic, and bright yellow? Is that farmers and customers have always loved pineapple? That doesn't totally make sense, right? Because I don't think they're the sweet, acidic, and bright yellow things. It would make more sense that pineapple is. B, pineapple has always been a favorite for farmers and customers. That makes more sense. Even though this is written in passive voice, it's still better than A because it's not dangling modifier. C, the love of pineapple. Sweet, acidic, and bright yellow. I don't think the love of pineapple is going to be that. And then D, pineapple's popularity cannot be doubted. No, it's going to be B. Pineapple has always been a favorite for farmers and customers. Typically, the SAT will give you more detail, so it's even more certain what they're talking about. But here you can see that of the options, pineapple is the one that makes the most sense for being sweet, acidic, and bright yellow and attaching. All the other ones create dangling modifiers, which means the modifier is not directly attached to what it's modifying. And that's just a nasty work. So these are always considered hard. Many people miss them because they don't see the issue. The issue is that we're not connecting them directly. This is the last one I'm predicting on the test, another grammar question. Squats, done since ancient times, are famous for their ability to increase a person's strength, muscle mass, and blank. Athletes have a choice, of course, on how much they emphasize the lift, but they cannot say the lift would be pointless. And then we see we always have bone density. Now, remember I've done this before. I talk about how I like to look at the answer choices first, and then I try to figure out what they're testing. So it's either comma, no comma, semicolon, or with a which. So that's a boundaries question because the actual words aren't changing really, besides adding a which. So we have to see what are the independent clauses. Squats are famous for their ability to increase a person's strength. Okay, that's an independent clause. Sets up another independent. Athletes have a choice, sets up another independent clause. So then we need to separate these two independent clauses either with a comma and a fanboys, a period, a semicolon, or maybe a colon. The only one that we have here is bone density with a colon. We would fill it in here with bone density and then semicolon. So then the first part is squats. Done since ancient times are famous for their ability to increase a person's strength, muscle mass, and bone density. Perfectly fine. Athletes have a choice, of course, on how much they emphasize the lift, but they cannot say the lift would be pointless. The issue here, I think, is that the comma here of course throws people off. But you want the semicolon here because you have a subject and a verb there, subject and predicate, and then you have that here. So that's the only one that makes sense, and I hope this whole video made sense for you all. Of course, come to me with more questions. If you have other different types of questions, I'm always here to answer them. But I think these 6 will be a great place to start for your October studying. These are all hard levels, so if you're struggling with them, don't feel bad. They're meant to be hard. So I will talk to you all soon. I hope the sun is shining bright on you, and if it's raining, I hope the rain is cleaning your windows and watering your plants. Bye.